Once again, we welcome you to yet another episode of Impact My World, a program that brings to you the godly view to life's real issues. Sandra DMH is my name, and I'm excited to be here with my special people. Shola is here.
Hello.
Peter is here.
Hello, everyone.
And Maiwa is also here.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today again. Today, we will be wrapping up the series we kicked off last week on your plans versus your reality, with focus on when God happens on your plans. Let's go on a quick break now. Impact My World continues right after the break. Don't go away.
One heart, one life to all.
Welcome back. The topic is still your plans versus your realities, with focus on when God happens on your plans. Now, Shola, tell me, what are some of the realities that have actually happened to people that has changed the course of their plans?
Well, several things can happen to a man that will completely change the course of that man's plan, completely change the course of the man's life. Take, for instance, a person who has planned out his academic life that to flow into his work life, and along the line in his academics, he loses the father, who is maybe the breadwinner and who is the sustainer of the family. We've had people's experiences where, because of the demise of their father, their school education completely stops and life becomes totally different, opposite of what now struggle now starts. The struggle through life, and most of the plans they had before, they had to just start all over again with new plans. It seems at that point their life, their plan, financial plan is truncated. So several things can happen to a man that will change the course of his life. Death of a loved one can cause a man's life to change completely. Natural disasters can cause the change in people's plans. Like the coronavirus, several plans of people were totally disrupted. Then God, like we said too, can happen to a man's plan and completely change the course of the person's life. Wow. So there are several, there are countless.
Okay. Wow. Now, just to add to that, particularly the period we are in, this pandemic period. Yeah. You see, a lot of people had made projections in the course of the year. They had made projections so that by this time, and then going by normal, economics, because they have experienced that before. They didn't envisage that this was going to happen.
That's true.
Look at airlines now. Most of them grounded.
That's true.
Owners of airlines, they will be paying for using the hangars.
Yeah.
But they are not making any money. In fact, currently now with the Forbes billionaire list, yes, someone who never would have thought would enter into the realm of billionaires, all of a sudden, overnight, his business happens to his business is worth more than 100 times more than six major airlines in America put together.
Wow.
So that's a person's plan versus his reality. He probably would have been projecting, by this time, let's try and do more marketing, yes, to be able to get in more people to use this app and the rest.
And then this just happens and change the course.
Or do you want to even talk about the people who work with these airlines, the air hostess, if we watch the news as it is now, a lot of people had made plans. By this time I'll be going to spend vacation here.
That's true.
By this time I would have saved up this. By this time I would have paid up this mortgage.
That's true. That just reminds me. I and my wife planned a vacation to celebrate my birthday this year. But coronavirus happened on our plans.
Actually happened on the plans. That's so true.
It's totally truncated.
That's so true. Okay, so Shola, you actually said something in the course of giving us some of the realities, and you said God can actually happen on a person's plan as well. Maiwa, let me ask you, when God happens on a person's plans, what exactly are we talking about?
Thank you, Sandra. When God happens on someone's plan, we are talking about your plans that you have set out, and in the process of everything, in the course of everything, something different that that this one in particular is beyond your control, and something tells you that this one is actually God. To me, that is when God happens. to a man's plan.
Okay, so Shola, tell me, when we say God happens on a man's plans, what exactly has happened? What takes place?
Well, it means that as man, you have some plans laid out, but along the line, something supernatural happens that shifts the course or that changes the course of your plan. So you cannot go at that point forward with your plans. There has to be a shift, completion. It could be for good, it could be for bad.
Okay.
So God can happen on a man's plan most times mercy, and it will be for good.
Okay.
But there are instances too we've seen in life, in the Bible, where God happened on the plans of man, and it came like judgment, and it shifted the course of their life negatively.
Wow. Okay.
That's true. Just for something that almost everybody is, familiar with.
Yes.
If we look at the story of Joseph,
Yes.
God happened on his plan.
That's
Obviously, he didn't plan to be in the dungeon.
That's
He didn't
true.
plan to be in the pit.
That's true.
He didn't even plan to be a slave or a servant.
True.
Because coming from a home where he was being pampered and all the likes, and then all of a sudden events just turned.
Yes.
And then you find yourself somewhere you are not supposed to be.
That's true.
It didn't look like where he was going to,
Yes.
but God was in it. Now, the same way too, you see other people who probably have planned that, I'm going to study, do a master's, after my BSc, and then when I finish my master's, possibly go for a PhD, or by that time I will get a good job, or maybe I'll be working in the US. And then the person who has promised to help them, all of a sudden dies. That person's dream looks like it's not achievable.
That's true.
Or someone had promised, I'm going to build this house for you. Probably the person had even bought land. And then all of a sudden, 2 days after or 3 days after, you hear that this person died. So some of those things, it might not only be death.
Yes.
It might be that, some of us will be aware of, someone who a relative had planned that, I'm going to sponsor you to go to, abroad. I'm going to sponsor you to go to the US. And then all of a sudden, something happens to the person's business. The business crashes. So those things, now, it doesn't mean that God is doing it to deliberately, or God allowed those things to deliberately derail the person. They might not look like it. But in the end, God is trying to create an avenue to make the person know that human beings are not really your source.
True.
So I am the one who is making a way for you. So it might not look logical to you. It might not look sensible to
That's
you.
true.
But I'm trying to teach you dependence and reliance on me to know that
good.
I'm the one who is the source.
Wow.
So I can use what you don't even believe would be possible.
That's so true. I couldn't agree less, Peter. That's very, very true. Now, in the course of your explanations, you actually said some things with regards to, as in looking at the way God could reroute a person's plans just to let the person become self-dependent on God, not self-dependent. Now, tell me, are there any pointers to actually telling when it is God happening on a person's plans or when it is you happening on your own plans?
Thank you, Sandra. If I get the point clear, like what are the clues?
Yes.
What are the clues that you can see to know that this is
God happening?
This is when God is happening on my plan, or it's just my thinking. I think if I want us to also look at this, because all the realities you've mentioned is I think it's on the negative. God can happen on the plan for good as well. Like what you don't even imagine will happen will just happen to you like that, and that's God happening. In this case, if something like this happens, you will know it's a clue that this one is from God. Like you are believing God for something and you have been putting your effort and nothing is showing, and God happened on another side for good, where you least expect help to come from. Help comes from that side on your plan, and that's God happening. And on your own side too, like what you have been trying in your head, in your mind, you have been praying but nothing is happening.
Just to buttress that point, you take a look at someone who probably has envisaged that, oh, I am a maid. This is the route I have planned for myself, that, okay, when I earn 20,000 a month, I will save 15,000 since I eat and I'm being accommodated. I don't spend so much, so I will be saving 15,000 so that I can go to school. And then all of a sudden, the person who has employed you as a maid say, okay, for you to stay in my house, you have to be educated. So if you know you are not willing to go to school, just tell me. And the person says, okay, I will pay your school fees. Sends the person to a good school. Sends the person to university. If the people are going on vacation, this person who came from a thick village and has already had plans that, oh, this is the route. Oh. There are some people who probably have not even stepped their foot out of this country and they are not as underprivileged as that person.
That's true.
Yeah.
But because God just wants to show a person, Shola said something about when God happens for good.
Yes.
It's mercy that is speaking.
True.
This person, I know of somebody who has gone to Dubai 3 times. Her mates have never even gotten close to an airport. But she has gotten to these places simply by mercy, because God happened on her plan.
Yes.
She's not the only child.
That's true.
There are other of her siblings who are not, privileged to experience this thing. But because God just wants to show that person mercy, the person's calculations are not what God uses.
Yes.
So God says, okay, this is what you are calculating, but me, I can do something and make you
faster.
That can, just distort everything, you're thinking that you are probably, put
laid out,
together.
yes.
So that's what that's the positive side I think you are looking at.
Okay, you asked how do you know if it's God that's happened on a person's plan?
No, it's pointers.
The pointers,
as to
yeah,
if it's God.
If it's God, the pointers. I think it depends on the scenario. God happens on people's plans almost on daily basis. But there are times that He gives the room for us to know.
Yes.
So we tend to know.
Yeah.
There are times that we don't even know. That if you take the story of Joseph, when he was sold into slavery, I'm sure he wouldn't have had an inkling that it was God
At all.
that was doing it.
Absolutely.
Until maybe the thing started manifesting. Or maybe when life started going on good for him, when he was promoted from just being a mere slave to the head of all the slaves, we say, God is happening for me, God is happening for me. And all of a sudden, so the first wife comes and, what is happening? Not knowing that there are processes that God has planned for. But so now, I was sharing with some people a life experience that somebody shared while I was in school. The person was to travel and she got to the park. She was the last person to board the bus. And the driver, for no reason, because of little argument of paying for your luggage, decided to drop her. She begged, please, and the driver insisted and dropped her off. So she had to board the next bus. On her way, she saw the bus that left, that should have entered, had an accident, and many people perished, including the person that took her position in that vehicle. Now, she would definitely know that it was God that happened to her at that point.
Yes.
That's true.
But it's possible that she only saw that because the accident happened on the road. If the vehicle had veered off the road and maybe entered into the ditch and the same people, she wouldn't have known.
She would have known, yes.
So God could give room for us to see the pointers that He is the one. And God at times you may not know. But truly as Christians, we have the Holy Spirit in us.
Yes.
So when things are happening, there's this peace, there's this inner peace, there's this assurance we will have that God is in control.
That's true.
So that's the advantage we have as Christians.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, just to add to this, it's also possible that God wants you to walk, because we walk by faith
That's
and
true.
not by sight.
That's true.
So someone has also said life is best lived forward, but we understand it backwards.
Yes.
So when you start looking back from where you are in retrospect, you start to understand that, I see, this is the hand of God.
Yes.
So this is what God was using this to. Because at the end of the day, the end result of it is